This is the RC16, KTM's MotoGP race bike. This particular bike was ridden by Mr. Paul Espargaro and delivered the KTM its first podium finish in 2018 at the Valencian Community Motorcycle Grand Prix by coming in at 3rd place. The RC16 is powered by a MotoGP spec 999cc V4 engine. Depending on the state of tune, this engine can produce up to 270 brake horsepower at a sky-high 19,000 rpm. This engine uses a pneumatic valve train system, since the traditional springs would simply break due to the metal fatigue at those insanely high RPMs. The power from the engine is transmitted to the rear wheel via a 6-speed seamless transmission. Unlike the other MotoGP bikes on the grid, the RC16 sports a couple of major differences. The first one is in the chassis construction. This bike is an outlier when it comes to the chassis. The RC16 is the only MotoGP bike on the grid that uses a steel tubular trellis frame. According to the KTM, this helps to significantly reduce the weight. The bike only weighs in at just 157 kilograms, which is 6 kilograms lighter than their beginner sports bike, the KTM RC390. It's not just the chassis, but the components like carbon fiber bodywork, titanium Akrapovic exhaust system, lightweight wheels, carbon ceramic brake discs, etc. also greatly contributes to its insanely light weight. Speaking of brakes, the RC16 uses a pair of Brembo 320mm high-mass carbon ceramic rotors at the front. These carbon ceramic discs are purpose-built for competition. Before the race, these discs have to be preheated to 100 degrees Celsius in order to get them working properly. Usually, the surface of this brake disc can reach a temperature up to 1000 degrees Celsius during the race. A steel rotor will become simply useless at that point, but not so much with this one. But despite the significant performance advantage, there's one big downside to these rotors. These carbon ceramic discs have a much shorter lifespan when compared to the steel ones. These only last for about 1600 kilometers. Not a practical solution for the road. At the rear, the RC16 uses a traditional slotted steel disc. These rotors are gripped by race-spec 4-piston aluminum monoblock calipers up front and a single-piston caliper at the rear, and they are controlled by Brembo GP billet radial master cylinders. In the suspension department, again KTM is trying something different. Unlike the other MotoGP bikes on the grid, which all uses Öhlins, KTM opted for the Dutch company WP both at the front and the rear. Compared to the Formula 1 racing, where the driver gets no electronic aids whatsoever, a MotoGP bike has traction control. And that is an absolute necessity, considering the fact that it has a higher power to weight ratio of 1.43 bhp per kilogram, and all that power has to be transferred to the ground through a tiny contact patch of the rear tire. Just like every other MotoGP bike on the grid, the RC16 also have engine braking control, wheelie control, torque control, etc. And the rider can change the settings through the 5 buttons on the left handlebar. But the best part about this bike is, you can actually own one. If you have $280,000 laying around, you can have one. And as a compliment, you'll also get $10,000 worth of riding gears for free, which is a really kind gesture from KTM. Agreed, the price is a bit on the higher side, especially when you compare it with the other exotic offerings like the Honda RC213V, Kawasaki H2R, etc. But the Honda is almost 90 brake horsepower down on power and is 30 kilograms heavier. The H2R on the other hand is much more powerful, but it is also 50 kilograms heavier, and it's not exactly a MotoGP bike. If you're interested, you can send your inquiries in this address. What do you guys think? Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. And as always, if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, please consider subscribing to the channel. See you guys next time. Ride safe.